For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kurt Greening, and I am an EVP with Securus. Securus is an industry leader in IT asset disposal. Today, we are here to discuss how to lower the risk associated with the disposal of organizational IT assets. Greg, before we get into that topic, can you briefly introduce yourself and tell me who 108 Cyber is?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kurt. And my colleague Nick and I work together here at 108 Cyber. We're a cybersecurity advisory firm focused on empowering organizations to build resilience against cyber threats. And we provide a variety of different offerings. Today, we'll talk about what we're doing in order to be able to support organizations in conducting assessments against proper IT asset management practices. And we provide a variety of other advisory services, anything from incident response and management to third-party risk management. So thanks for having us, Kurt. Really excited to collaborate. And Nick and I are really excited to support you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we're glad that you're here. Nick, can you do the same thing? Introduce yourself. I understand that over the last few months, you've been doing a lot of research around this space. Maybe you can introduce yourself, but then also share some of the things that you found in terms of vulnerabilities, breaches, fines, really in the space of IT asset management.
Yeah, totally. So my name's Nick Crabb. I currently work as a cybersecurity engineer for 108 Cyber, and I create presentations, policies, assessments, and daily threat reports every day, talking about anything from ransomware, end-of-life systems, and kind of nation-state threat actors. And today I kind of want to go over some end-of-life systems that pose risks to organizations, and I've done a little bit of research on that. And there are two main breaches I kind of want to go over. The first one is the Filefax HIPAA violation. And this is a great example because even after shutting down, Filefax was fined $100,000 for improperly handling 2,150 patient records. And they were later sold at a recycling center. And these threat actors were able to sell that information. And obviously, they had to go to court, and HIPAA was able to fine them for not properly disposing their assets. The next one is Morgan Stanley, and they were fined $60 million by the U.S. Treasury Department for failure on IT asset destruction. And this includes like proper oversight in decommissioning 2 data centers, failure to track customer data, and inadequate vendor management. Now more than ever, I think companies need to focus on IT asset destruction. And from when I was researching it, from kind of knowing nothing to knowing a lot now, I think I took a new company perspective. It's hard to think about IT asset destruction when you're a new company, when you have a small inventory and new equipment. But as the years go on and the equipment that you use gets older and the inventory grows week after week, without secure IT asset destruction policies and kind of procedures go out the window. And I think organizations can't kind of live with the regulatory fines, legal liability, and the devastating breaches that the two kind of examples I went over.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the big companies that tend to have the lawsuits, tend to have the fines, and obviously that creates the biggest risk of breaches of employee or customer data. So that's a big deal. And yeah, Nick, you did mention that you produce a cyber threat report on a daily basis. I've seen that. I will post in the show notes your LinkedIn for those who want to follow you, who want to make sure that they're avoiding vulnerabilities and risk in multiple areas. So thanks for that. Greg, I'm going to throw you a question here. So maybe people don't know you're a former CISO. You served in the federal government, both in law enforcement and then later as a CISO of the U.S. Postal Service. But one of the things that I'm curious about as I talk to other CISOs, I'm just curious why other CISOs might not be doing more to lower risk in this particular area.
Yeah, really good question, Kurt. And I'm going to kind of look at it from a couple of different lenses. The first is competing priorities.
Yeah.
CISOs are focusing on so many different things, whether it's ransomware prevention, supply chain attacks, all of the NIST CSF controls or CIS controls. There's a lot there. And quite frankly, IT asset disposal gets overlooked. And there's other reasons as well. Because they've got so many different things going on, they might delegate that to the IT help desk function for the organization. You distribute the technology. You also get rid of the technology. I don't want to worry about it. You guys do it. And that also speaks to some of those business processes in kind of that IT technology management, asset management track. And that's, many organizations don't have a comprehensive IT asset inventory. So it really makes it difficult for them to track even that that they have assets that need to be decommissioned, right? And that kind of speaks to that cross-departmental responsibility confusion that I alluded to. So, and I think we need to kind of re-examine. I think we're getting to the point where from a NIST and policy perspective, we need to take a look at this whole concept of encrypted hard drives and re-examine that in the face of what threat actors are doing right now is buying outdated hard drives and decommissioned hard drives with the hope that when quantum cryptography, quick quantum is developed and the ability to break that encryption arises. And so we need to look at those policies and think, BitLocker is great right now, but BitLocker in the face of the quantum threat will not be sufficient. And, is that 5 years from now? Is that 10 years from now? We don't know, but I don't want any of the information that's on my drives exposed 10 years from now because we didn't take care of our assets properly today.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the competing priorities. And, I don't think we're on this call to beat up CISOs because they get beat up enough. And, I think just watching Nick's threat report every day can make it difficult to get sleep at night. So thanks for that. So Nick, on the vein of trying not to beat up organizations, we talked about some of the risk and where organizations have made mistakes, but there's probably more people that are doing things right than making mistakes. Can you provide a few examples of in the terms of the research that you've done or companies that you've talked to and things that you're seeing them do right in terms of IT asset management?
Yeah, totally. So these are more kind of general examples. Companies that are getting their IT asset destruction process correct are typically the ones not in the news. And that makes a lot of sense. So to ensure secure and compliant IT asset destruction, I think it's important to align with NIST 888. From my journey, learning about NIST 888 was significant, and I've learned a lot through that. And I think some leading practitioners are Amazon, financial institutions, and government agencies, and they implement strong asset tracking and secure disposal process. And I think that's very important for organizations to secure all their assets after end of life. So organizations that maintain a comprehensive inventory and enforce proper destruction protocols not only enhance security, but also build customer trust and regulatory compliance.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I haven't reviewed Amazon's policies, but I have reviewed Microsoft's policies, and they're pretty good in this area. I've also worked with some banks that have incredible IT asset management policies. They have really good oversight of third-party ITAD vendors. So there are definitely some people out there getting it right, and people that in the industry that we can learn some best practices from. Now, Greg, switching gears and going back to you, how does getting IT asset management right relate to cybersecurity best practices?
Several lenses that Nick kind of opened us up into, I think I want to expand on. And first and foremost, it's risk reduction, right? Improperly disposed of IT assets are targets for cyber criminals, and a CISO's role it is to reduce risk for the organization. So making sure that proper IT asset management practices are in place are critical. The next is really looking at this from a zero trust perspective. When you look at both the data pillar and the device pillar, they converge at IT asset destruction, right? When you look at the termination of those life cycles are at IT asset destruction, and so to have a proper zero trust organization based on those principles, I think you really need to look at IT asset destruction as an endpoint for those. And then obviously the regulatory compliance aspects. Nick's talked about HIPAA, organizations that face GDPR, and the FFIC regulations, obviously with what Nick reported on relative to Morgan Stanley. Those are excellent examples of kind of the regulatory compliance requirements that exist in this area. So, those are kind of the lenses that I'm thinking about relative to some of the cybersecurity best practices.
Okay, yeah, great. That's helpful. Greg, I got another question for you. So I've talked to a couple of lawyers about this area and some other risk management professionals, and they referred to a term of having defensible IT asset management policies. Can you help our audience understand what they might be referring to?
Yeah, so I think any regulated agency or maybe that's the DoD supply chain from a CMMC perspective, or the financial services from a FFIEC perspective. Defensibility, documentation, compliance, and verification. Those kind of terms ring through. So do you have a well-defined asset management lifecycle, including asset destruction policies and procedures? Are you complying with those policies and procedures? And do you have a means to verify that the performance of those controls are done in a complete manner? And so I think it goes back to, like I say, documentation, compliance, and verification.
And Greg, I would guess that proper oversight of third-party vendors would be included in those three things.
Absolutely. Just I guess I generally alluded to it when I mentioned CMMC. That's a whole supply chain related body of compliance requirements, and so by all means, having a proper third-party visibility and assurance is necessary when you think about the complexities of the supply chain in any technology service provider or financial institution or government contracting context.
Perfect. Great answer. I think I had a better understanding now. Nick, so I'd love to hear from you again. I understand that you and your team actually have developed an offering that's going to help busy CISOs lower this risk in the area. In particular, I think what got me excited is I talked to a number of CISOs, and they said similar things. They're busy. One said, hey, the most amount of time my team has to spend on it is to set up a policy and then expect that the team follows it. But this particular individual did acknowledge, hey, if there was something else I could do, like maybe hire a third party to help me with this, he seemed really open to it. So could you describe the offering that you developed, or the assessment that you developed, and then maybe let people know how they could get started with 10-8 Cyber if they think, hey, I probably need to improve my IT asset management or my IT disposition practices, but I don't know my level of risk, or I don't really know what things I should be improving on first. How could they approach your team?
Yeah, totally. So I just want to preface first, they're definitely cost effective. 10-8 is currently offering a few different IT asset disposal assessments with various tiers aligning with large and small organizations. The introduction assessment is our first one. It's very basic with 12 questions, allowing the company to answer them on their own. And then a consultation will be scheduled with 10-8 to go over and kind of go in and talk about their depth and the specific gaps they have in the company's answers. We then create a report and analysis on how the company can best improve based on that. We then have larger assessments that allow 10-8 to go into the organization, which we can be on site or on a call, and we can talk about how an organization can create a comprehensive IT asset destruction process based on the company's personnel, policies, and procedures. And this is all aligning with NIST 888. The easiest way to get started with us is to visit our website to set up an introduction meeting with 10-8. And we get to start with the company right away and kind of help them develop a strong IT asset destruction process that is safe and secure for not only them, but their clients as well.
Sounds like an easy choice. And to get to 10-8 Cyber, I believe it's, is it www.10-8 Cyber, or can you help me with the URI? We'll post it in the show notes stuff.
It's www.10-8cyber, written out in words, cyber.com. So 10-8cyber.com.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll post that in the show notes. Make it super easy for everybody. Hey, thanks, Nick. Thanks, Greg. I think I learned something. I think that there's an opportunity here with a relatively small financial and time investment that organizations can lower their risk in this area, and I think CISOs can have one less area to stress about. So really appreciate you guys, and thanks so much.
Thank you, Kurt. Really grateful for the opportunity and collaborating with Securus.
Yeah, thank you a lot, Kurt. I appreciate it.